All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The State of the Nation conversation starts right now. It's all about floods and a bit of politics as well. Let me introduce my guest one more time. We're with me in studio His Excellency Dr. Matthews Owili, Deputy Governor for Kisumu. Asante sana. Honorable Joe Nyutu, Senator for Murang'a, and Honorable Titus Lote, Member of Parliament Kacheliba. Asante sana for making time. And Governor, I'll start with you. How bad is the flooding situation, especially in your region?
Well, the situation in Kisumu is dire. The situation that we are seeing, we've not seen in a very, very long time. I mean, for the first time, we've seen massive, reclamation, if so to speak, of land by the lake, what we call the backflow of the lake, swallowing schools, churches, and farms. But also the kind of flooding that we've seen as a result of River Nyando and River Sondu bursting their banks is unprecedented, okay? We have got a number of our people in camps. I mean, if you think about Ahero, for example, we have like 3 camps with so many people. If you think about Kadibo, again, we have people in camps. If you think about Nyakach, we have got a number of people also in camps. And again, in conditions that are so, inhuman, so to speak. But again, there's not much that we can do because these guys have to, they left their places because of the rising levels of the water, and they have to find a way, to survive in those very difficult circumstances. And basically all, the sub-counties are affected, including Kisumu Central, up to including Seme. Yesterday we were in Seme in a place called Kirindo, where we still have people also, in camps as a result of the raging floods.
Yeah.
Okay. You are aware about Ahero just the other day when River Nyando burst its banks, and we had the whole Ahero township, submerged underwater. Of course, that situation has gone down now, but a lot needs to be done. The structural integrity of the bridge at Ahero also need to be rechecked now because, the whole place was submerged underwater. It was so serious such that one of our sub-county hospitals, the one in Ahero, was completely submerged in water. So you can imagine the emergency situation, I mean, and the needs of the people medically were not able to be met.
What are you approximating as the numbers of those affected in Kisumu?
We're talking about more than 40,000 people, more than 40,000 people. We're talking about more than 3,000 households all over, affected by the floods. Quite a number of schools are basically submerged. I am aware that schools are reopening. We are wondering, and I really would be, looking forward to hearing from the chair of the Committee on Education at the Senate, okay? Regarding that situation, we really would have expected that enough consultations would have been done. I'm not sure if that has been done. Yesterday I was with the COPET team in the county of Kisumu, and they expressed real fears. In those camps, we have schools that are supposed to open that are basically, acting as camps where people are basically camping. We also have, students who are in camps. We have parents who have lost basically everything. Kids have lost their books, So we think that, enough consultation has been done, enough data should have been collected. We should have really, probably, thought about those who are worstly, affected by the floods in terms of, our timeline for reopening schools.
So in your assessment, we are not ready to open schools?
There are schools that are ready to open, yes, but there are also schools that are not ready to open completely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me bring in Honorable Joe Nyutu here. Joe Nyutu is also the Senator for Murang'a and the Chair of the Education Committee at the Senate. What is your assessment, Joe? Are we ready to open schools on Monday?
Thank you, Trevor. And I want to believe that the President, of course, before he makes any pronouncement, has collected enough information. The President consumes national intelligence every day. But I want to agree with the DG of Kisumu that there are schools still, because we have seen it on the news. There are still schools that somehow are submerged in water, and we are aware that there are also people who are displaced that are living in some schools. But then I think the right thing to do was what the president did, to reopen schools. I think what will follow is isolation or profiling of the schools, so that and we know we have schools that are still affected, that then government will zero in on seeing to it that the schools affected are maybe assisted to deal with the issues that they have, rather than keeping all the schools in the country at home, all the students at home in school. I want to believe that of course government is aware, and that I know. So what will happen? And the Deputy President had suggested that even before the CS for Education decided to issue that directive that schools should not open on the 29th. The Deputy President had said that the schools that were affected, that we would look at issues on a case-to-case basis, on a need basis. So I think what is going to happen is that government, like I've said, is going to come up with measures and ways of seeing to it that the schools that are affected, of course, slowly come back to their feet. But it would not be very prudent for me to keep all the schools, closed, just because maybe some of them are affected.
Okay. Yeah. Have you done an assessment as the committee to know how many schools are affected in the counties and what percentage can reopen, what percentage should not reopen?
We have not yet been able to take that particular kind of count, because we were not very sure when schools would reopen. Probably now it's time that we asked for this data, but I believe that the ministry has this data. Trevor, I think when I was last year, I think I said that the Ministry of Education has a very good structure. So it's very easy to collect information. So I think this would just be a matter of asking for this data. And by the structure, I mean we have a county education, a director of education in every county. In fact, we have regional directors of education. Then you have county directors of education. Then you have some county directors of education. At the sub-county level, we have zones. And we also have zonal education officers. So it's very easy to collect this information, but I do not want to say here that I have that data. But probably before the end of the week, we are going to liaise with the ministry and be able to collect this data so that we can know, as you ask, how many schools are affected, what their needs are, and also for the ministry to tell us what the plans are to see to it that these schools are sorted and the pupils, the learners in those schools, to be able to go back to school, because we do not want them to be left behind when the others continue covering the syllabus. Okay. So, Let
me bring in Lotte. Lotte, what is your assessment of the situation? Have we responded appropriately in terms of disaster? And are we even ready to open schools?
Well, good morning, and thank you for welcoming me. Looking at the situation in this country, I think there is a lot of back and forth discussions in terms of whether we are prepared or not, whether the government has acted right or not, whether the citizens are ready to actually go into the next phase of life after the flooding, because from the meteorological department, we are told that in the next few days, the rains are going to subside, because we expected the rains to increase because of the Hurricane Idaya, Cyclone Idaya, which died, fortunately for us. But I think the rains will continue, but then normally. The government do not have an option but to open schools, because the situation is cutting across the country. Every part of the country, like the way the Deputy Governor for Kisumu said, the situation is dire across the country. And the government has pledged $1 billion shillings to reconstruct schools. But should we continue saying that we are not going to open schools because the classrooms are not constructed, then we're going to wait forever. So for me, I'll say the government has acted right to wait and look at the situation. At one point, when the minister postponed opening of the schools, there was a lot of outcry, and people say the minister acted without thinking. But then a few days after, the president himself came and said, we are going to postpone opening of schools again, indefinitely. That basically means the government acted well. The government was looking at the situation. The government wanted not to have more lives lost because of opening of schools. But then the same government now, based on the data that is coming from the officers, has seen it right to open schools. So for me, I'll say, despite the difficult situation that we're in as a country, the government has acted right to say the schools are open. It might not be the ultimate thing to do, but it's the best thing to do at this particular point. Yeah.
DG, do you agree with that move?
Well, I think it must be on record that we aren't against schools reopening.
Yeah.
Okay. But I want to draw your attention, to the paper here, Daily Nation, page 4, and it is all here. One of the schools there is Kobura. Another school that is highlighted here is a school in Nakuru, and we are seeing Kobura Primary School, underwater. Okay, and so what we are trying to say is that enough data should have been collected, and I hope it has been collected, and we need to see a response, that is specific based on the needs of the schools that are under review. Yeah. I know quite a bit of, infrastructure, school infrastructure may have been eroded. Quite a number of schools in many other places still is, mud wall and stuff like that. Okay, and so we are expecting the kids to go back to, their places of learning in a completely different, environment. Okay, so probably what we may need to know is what the government intends to do to help the disadvantaged young ones who are also going to, because if they open schools and it's blanket, that means all of them must seek, to get back to their schools.
Yeah.
But the conditions are completely different. Yeah, so it'd be nice to know what, the plans are for this government to help probably rebuild infrastructure in the shortest time possible. I am happy that, my member of parliament here is not noting that some money will have been set aside, to help reconstruct, to help rebuild, and just to help resettle, the young ones back in school. But it needs to be known. As I've told you, I met some education stakeholders yesterday. They know they're opening schools on Monday, but there's no indication as yet as to what that help that may come from the government will be like.
Okay. Yes.
I strongly believe when the president convened a meeting to handle emergencies in this country, and especially the flooding, he actually said that we're going to take an all-government approach. That basically means county government are supposed to also take role in this. And the president noted very clearly and said the national government is going to give 1 billion shillings for reconstructions of school. But he actually also asked the members of parliament through the National Government Constituency Development Fund to readjust their budgets so that they can specifically look at constructions of school, and also call on the county government. And I'll ask the deputy governor here, who is also the deputy governor for Kisumu, and all other county government to take cue, so that it's not just the 1 billion shilling that is going to be set aside by the national government. Is going to be all-sum approach, so that we will now start seeing the county government also saying, I'll expect the deputy governor to say, the county government of Kisumu, based on the call for the president, have also set aside this amount of money. So it should not just be about the national government, but it's about all of us that have resources from this country to be able to help our children go back to school.
Yeah, hold on that thought for a bit. I'll come to you to get your reaction on YouTube. But for now, let's cross over to George Wambugu, who is the Medical Activity Manager, MSF. George, good morning. Thank you for making time for us. What is your assessment of the situation from a professional's perspective?
Good morning, Trevor, the panel. I work for MSF, Medicines Sans Frontiers. It's a medical humanitarian organization. And we have done some assessment in Nairobi County, that is in Mathare, Eastlands, and also in Homa Bay County, and also in Kiambu County. And currently we are doing an assessment in Garissa County. And what we have seen, especially in Nairobi, there are some displaced persons by the flash floods, and they are housed in various schools. And of course, we have seen that Kenya Red Cross is responding to the situation. And of course, there are some gaps that are there. This is in water and sanitation. Some displaced camps do not have water, and sanitation is a challenge. That is the safe disposal of human waste. And also from a medical point of view, some people lost their medical records, and also those living with chronic diseases, they also lost their medication. And that's another thing, is those who have lost their loved ones and also their properties. Some of them are suffering from psychosocial problems, that is mental health problems. Yeah, so that's what we have seen. And also there is also a challenge in terms of non-food items. That is blankets, issue of like mosquito nets, and also the sleeping, that is the non-food items like the blankets, the mattress, water containers. Yeah, so those are the challenges that we have seen.
George, what is the most urgent in terms of needs for the displaced population from your assessment?
From our assessment, as I said, there are challenges, like from medical point of view, since we are a medical humanitarian organization, we have seen that those living with chronic conditions have lost their medication, and through working with CHVs, they have been able to be linked to the different facilities. And also, we have seen those who lost their loved ones, they have mental health challenges, loved ones, and also properties, and also maybe those who had traumatic experience from the flash floods, especially in Mai Mahiu. And also another thing that we saw is like in Mai Mahiu Health Center, they depleted their medical stocks because they faced a lot of influx of patients at once. Yeah.
And now the schools are reopening on Monday. Will that affect the humanitarian response?
With the schools opening on Monday, of course, we got that communication yesterday. We are waiting to see how the government is going to address the situation, because for us, we normally complement what the government does. Of course, where the displaced persons will relocate, we'll be monitoring the needs to see where we can support. Yeah.
Now that the rains are subsiding, what is your plan? What are you planning for now going forward?
Yeah, we will be monitoring the situation, because we have started seeing diseases of public health concerns. Like now there is a cholera outbreak in Tana River County, and we're heading there to do an assessment to see on how we can support. So we'll be monitoring the disease trends, especially of public health concerns, like malaria, cholera, and other diseases of public health concerns.
So, George, what kind of help are you offering now in terms of water and sanitation?
So, in Mathare slums, we provided potable water, that is clean water, to some of the displaced camps. And also we provided mobile toilets to some of the displaced camps, whereby we saw that there were needs. Yeah, and also our teams, our community engagement team has been providing water purification tablets. We call them aquatabs, so that they purify the water to prevent diseases of public health concern like cholera and typhoid and dysentery.
All right. Thanks, George. George Wambugu, their Medical Activity Manager, MSF. Thank you for that update. And let's come back to studio now, and we'll try and reach out to Honorable Anthony Olwoch, Member of Parliament for Mathare, is also in Kericho now to give us an assessment of what's going on. But Honorable Joe, there's an interesting conversation that Lotte is bringing up, putting in the money where it is needed the most right now. Knowing the way counties are, and knowing that you're supposed to be defending the counties, they did not have enough allocation for this money. Is this simply a piped dream? And I'll get DG's response when it comes to what Lotte said.
Thank you, Trevor. And I think I really support what Honorable Lote has said. That when a disaster strikes, we should marshal all the resources and all the knowledge that we have in that particular area. And CDF should be able to do something, like Honorable Lote has said, in reconstruction of the classes, because it's not every school that is affected. Even in Kisumu County, as the Deputy Governor is saying, of course it's not in every other school. So the isolated cases which if we were able to marshal these resources, like I'm saying, the CDF comes in. But talking of counties, counties are supposed to set aside 2% of the shareable revenue for emergency needs. And so I don't know how Kisumu is, and because the Honorable DG is here, he will maybe shed more light on what they're doing in Kisumu. But by law, they're supposed to set aside 2% of the shareable revenue. Muranga got about 7-point-something billion shareable revenue this year. So 2% of that should have been set aside to deal with such cases. And Trevor, why I say we should marshal all the resources. I think we have seen images of schools that, of course, had been submerged in water. But where now floods have subsided, they are actually not, the floods have gone away, but then we have a lot of mud in school. So we need also to have community initiatives. We can remove that mud, I mean, wash the classes in such cases. So we need every other person that has resources, every other person that has an initiative, every other person that can deal with that emergency. So to answer your question, let counties, even as we look upon the national government to send resources, to send aid to the schools affected. Let counties, let us see the effort of counties through the emergency fund. Let us see CDF working. Let us see also community initiatives, because it affects all of us. And we should be able to solve these problems when they come. And Trevor, you know, our people are very creative. I can tell you that, although I do not want to get there, but I can tell you that when we were growing up, we had so many, for example, we had so many mothers that used to give birth at home. There were people already at, some midwives locally. And that's what I'm calling community initiative. I mean, there are many things our people can do to help solve this problem, especially where it's not very dire. But when we have schools like the one that is here, Kobura, I think we need a lot of effort also from the national government. Okay. Yes.
DG, is it practical what they're proposing and knowing how the physical space is in the counties?
Well, I think my colleagues here are right, that counties need to appropriate at least 2% of our budget to matters, emergency, and stuff like that. But the Honorable Senator here of Muranga, and I don't know the case of Muranga, but the case of Kisumu, and in many other counties, our shareable revenue has not been forthcoming consistently. Like for now, we've not received our shareable revenue for March. We are in May. Okay, meaning that we are constrained in terms of budget to cover the many responsibilities that are apportioned to county government. But Trevor, also to note that Schedule 4 of the Constitution also apportions responsibilities to both national government and county governments. Okay, now county governments are supposed to take care of early childhood education, so we are thinking about rebuilding our ECD centers, which have not been spared, the effects of the flood. So we have the standalone ECD centers, but we also have those that are within the primary schools as we know them. Now, quite a number of the schools that you are thinking should be rebuilt are actually high schools. Counties have nothing to do with them. Now, we have a responsibility again to, rebuild the vocational training centers that are basically a responsibility of county governments. And so you can see how constrained counties are already. Now, part of this money also, like if you think a case of Kisumu, and the Lake Victoria Basin, all the counties that are there, what we will call the riparian counties, if you count all the way from Siaya to Migori, one of the things that we must do early enough is to ensure that the waterways are open. It is to ensure that the rivers and the streams are desilted, so that the effects of the floods is not as much as you'd see in many other places. And I think counties have spent quite a bit of money in that regard. Okay, and so basically the money probably would be there, but it may not be enough to help us cover for the whole of this. The bulk of the reconstruction that needs to be done, truth be said, actually is a function of the national government. But allow me to also to just get back to what our friend who is handling the matters of health just talked about. The situation, the health situation in the camps, again, is serious. Yesterday I was visiting one of the camps in Kisumu, out of the people who are displaced from a place called Kapuote, and they lose people. We just went to one of the camps where they had lost, somebody. So cases of cholera have been reported in many other places. It could occur anywhere else, and so the situation in those camps. I mean, we see mothers with young babies. We've seen teen mothers living in deplorable conditions. Okay, and so I think also that the Ministry of Health, of course, together with the counties, need to do something just to help address the challenges of health in the camps as we speak.
Okay, Lotte, one of the things that the president said was that members of parliament should reallocate some of the money from CDF to rebuild these schools. There's a difference between what's on paper and what's practical in reality. Do you guys already have the CDF money? Is it coming? When does it, and how are you going to reallocate this?
Or is it like county?
Well, we understand the fiscal challenges in this country. And I think that is what the Deputy Governor said, that we are already in May, but they have not gotten the March allocation. But before I even answer that question, I just want us to go back to a little bit in terms of how we're going to respond from counties. What the good Senator Jonas said was that 2% of the funding that goes to the counties are supposed to be for emergencies. And these monies have always been going to the counties since the beginning of creation of our devolution in 2013. And I'm 100% sure that if we go to the book of accounts for every county, you will be shown what kind of emergencies that they have been able to do. And that basically tells you that there is an expenditure on an emergency for every county since 2013. And when we talk about emergency, we are not confined to the provision of Schedule 4 of the Constitution. Schedule 4 is on the activities that are done by county government and activities that are done by the national government. But when it comes to an emergency, it does not constrain counties to now constructing only ECDs. It is about emergencies, and emergency is defined differently from a normal day activity. And so, county government are also supposed to construct schools, reconstruct schools during emergencies. They're supposed to supply relief food. They're supposed to actually take care of the people that are displaced by either hunger or floods. They are also supposed to come in when there are situations such as health emergencies. And so emergency in this particular context is not a constraint as by the provision of Schedule 4 of the Constitution. If you look at the allocation... So
you think they should have some savings?
They should have some, yes, they should. And actually, I want, if there could be somebody here who looks at the books of accounts, he will tell you that all the counties have actually been declaring that they are responding to emergencies. And those emergencies are not just about ECDs or anything that is provided for in Schedule 4. Okay. It is emergencies about everything else, including landslide and everything. Okay. But then the second thing...
I'll give you a chance.
The second thing is... last year, 2024-2025, allocation to counties, 375 billion was allocated for counties. 2% of that is 7.8 billion.
Actually, it was 385.
So you're talking about 8 billion shillings that is supposed to go for emergencies.
Which the Kenya Red Cross says is what they need now.
What is what the Red Cross is saying. Now we are trying to say the national government has not acted. Yet the national government has already given an indication that they are going to give 1 billion shillings for the construction of schools. The national government has said that they are going through the National Constituency Development Fund, reallocate. And I'll tell you, every member of parliament feels the needs to reallocate this funding to ensure that the schools in his or her constituencies are open. And this funding...
How much of the 2024 CDF have you received as Kacheliba? What percentage?
Percentages so far, we are at around 45% receiving of CDF.
So with the schools reopening on Monday, can you reallocate anything?
Yes, the schools are reopening on Monday. Yes. And I am going to reallocate to ensure that the schools that are affected in my constituency are also supposed to do. And I'll tell you, last week, part 1, the National Government Development, National Constituency CDF, actually got some allocations. And I think we were with the president on Friday, on Thursday last week, at celebrating the years that the CDF has acted, has been able to serve Kenyans. And the president was very categorical on this and said, please ensure that you are using this funding effectively. And one of the effective ways of using this funding is to be able to ensure that your schools are open. So it will be upon the member of parliament that will not want to reallocate this money to open schools. And I think it is open that the National Constituency Development Fund is supposed to do constructions of schools. So I will, as a member of parliament, and I believe many other member of parliaments that resonate with the president will ensure that this money is reallocated. But I will ask the county government, the 8 billion shillings, even if the national government has not released all the monies, probably they have released 50–60%. That will be around 4 billion shillings. Can we see the county government also not just blaming the national government, but we want to see the county government also then at this particular point using this funding to elevate the situation that is affecting kids.
All right, I have to take a quick commercial break. I'll come back to you, DG, and respond also and get your new perspective on this. But keep your views coming at Trevor Mbidi at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. When you come back from the break, I believe we'll have Honorable Anthony Oluoch, Member of Parliament from Mathare, joining us as well. All right, see you in a bit.